My friend with cancer wished for one final wedding, and to my shock, her chosen partner was my boyfriend. As I watched their grand ceremony unfold, I found myself seeking comfort in the arms of a stranger. He kept confirming, "Trina Barton, are you really willing to marry me?" Every few minutes he'd message me to make sure. After I agreed, he sent me over a dozen diamond ring designs to choose from, each one more breathtaking than the last. "These are rings I bought at auction. Do you like any of them?" When I didn't reply right away, he messaged again a few seconds later. "If none of these suit your taste, there's a jewelry auction in the UK soon. I'll take you there to pick one yourself." After examining the rings carefully, I sent a voice message to Nathan. "The Graf pink diamond looks beautiful. Let's choose that for our wedding ring." Just then, Ray appeared behind me. He overheard the words "wedding ring," and for once his normally composed face showed a flash of panic. "Wedding ring? What wedding ring?" he asked, staring at me with an intensity that almost unsettled me. I met his gaze with indifference, ready to come up with an excuse. But just then, my phone rang. It was my best friend, Elena Turner. I answered, and her tearful voice came through the line. "TR, is Ray with you? I just had another nosebleed. I'm so scared." Before I could respond, Ray grabbed the phone from me. "Elena, don't worry, I'll be there right away," he assured her urgently. Then, without another word to me, he rushed out. I was left standing there, forgotten, as he ran to her side. Only then did I remember that he had asked me to join him for a night cruise on the Pearl River tonight. A plan he'd made to make up for missing our 10th anniversary. So this is what it feels like to finally let go of someone watching him run after another woman. My heart remains calm, untouched, as if nothing could stir it anymore. My father's phone rang again. This time it was Nathan. "Trina, are you ready? I'll pick you up in Boston tomorrow." Gazing into the distance, I replied softly, "Give me a week to settle things here. After that, I'll return to Seattle, and we'll get married." His voice was warm on the other end. "All right, I'll be waiting for you. If anything comes up that you can't handle, remember, I'm here." After we hung up, I called Grandpa Hall to say goodbye. He and my grandfather were comrades in arms and shared a deep bond. When I was 8, doctors diagnosed me with a severe heart condition. As luck would have it, the Hall family owned a renowned private hospital specializing in cardiology, so my grandfather decided to send me to them in Boston for treatment. Since then, Ray's parents have cared for me as their own, and Grandpa Hall has always looked after me with boundless kindness. As I prepared to return to Seattle, it felt only natural to say my goodbyes. Ray didn't come home again that night. A message from Elena appeared on my phone. "Look at you with cake all over your face. So cute." Attached was a photo of Ray leaning down to take a bite of cake with Elena, playfully smearing cream on his cheek. Moments later, she deleted the message. "I'm sorry, Trina. I sent it to the wrong person." Just now, she wrote again. "Ray thought it was cute and asked me to send it to him. You're not upset, right?" I didn't reply. Instead, I went back to my room and quietly began packing my things. The following day at noon, Ray finally came home, carrying a gift he'd brought to apologize. "Trina, Elena's condition got serious last night. I just took her to the hospital," he said, watching me closely. I stayed silent as I opened the velvet box he offered. Inside was an elegant Van Cleef Arpels watch, the strap circled in diamonds. Beautiful, extravagant. Yet I remembered he had once given Elena a similar gift. Mine was simply the pricier version. Noticing my lack of response, Ray asked with a hint of worry, "Trina, are you upset?" I answered calmly, "No. Elena's unwell. You should be with her." He gave me a curious look, as if sensing something off about my response, but eventually just sighed. "I'm glad you're not angry," he said. "After all, we have a long future ahead of us together." "But Elena..." His eyes glistened with emotion. I had no patience to hear more. "Then by all means spend more time with that." I turned to leave, but he caught my wrist, stopping me in my tracks. When I looked up, my expression was flat, my gaze emotionless. "What is it?" I asked. Ray looked mildly annoyed, though he didn't seem to know why. Before he could say more, his phone rang again. Glancing at the screen, he looked back up at me. Trina, I'll be on a business trip for a few days. I won't be back for a while. You take care, I replied casually, thinking that his absence would make it easier for me to visit the Hall family and say my goodbyes. The next morning, I gathered the gifts I'd prepared and made my way to the Hall family home. When Mrs. Hall heard I was returning to Seattle, her eyes filled with concern. Trina, what happened? You've settled so well here in Boston. Why leave so suddenly? Mr. Hall, on the other hand, slammed the table in frustration. And where is Ray? Why didn't he come with you? Did he mistreat you? I hesitated, but I couldn't bring myself to tell them everything. No, nothing like that. It's just that I've been away from home for so long. I'd like to go back and reconnect. Mrs. Hall looked at me with concern. Does Ray know you're planning to go back to keep things simple? I nodded. Yes, he knows. With that, everyone seemed to understand. There was no convincing me to stay. After exchanging a few more words, I stood to leave. Just then the front door swung open and there stood Ray Elena beside him, her expression calm and assured. Trina, what a surprise to see you here, she said with a smile, as if she were already a part of the Hall family. I held her gaze, my voice steady. I don't need to explain to you why I'm here. With that, I brushed past Ray, heading for the door. Realizing I was leaving, Ray quickly followed, his voice urgent. Trina, you've got this all wrong. I only brought Elena here so my parents could help her find a good doctor. He paused, as if trying to appeal to reason. She's also your best friend, after all. You're not upset, are you? I paused for a brief moment, his words fading as memories flooded back. His promise to me under the cherry tree when he was 18, he had said that marrying me was his lifelong dream. He once promised he'd bring me home to meet his parents as his future wife. But here he was introducing another woman to the Hall family while telling me he was on a business trip. Seeing the anticipation in Ray's eyes, I replied calmly, why would I care? I've never been the type to hold grudges. People who aren't worth it don't deserve my concern. Ray looked momentarily taken aback. Trina, do you really not care at all? He was impossible to please when he and Elena were close. Before, he called me narrow-minded for being upset. Now that I chose to ignore it, he still wasn't satisfied. I saw no point in explaining myself. Without another word, he leaned down and pecked me on the forehead. Be good and wait for me at home, he said softly. As the elevator doors closed, I wiped my forehead. The gesture left me feeling sick. On our 10th anniversary, Ray had also dodged me with some excuse about a business trip. That night, I received a video call request from Elena. When the call connected, I could hear the lively sounds of a wedding celebration, and it slowly dawned on me. The wedding was Ray and Elena's. As the video call progressed, Elena's victorious grin dominated the screen. I realized I had to move quickly. After that last night in Boston, I felt truly free for the first time. It was as if all the promises, plans, and moments Ray and I had shared had dissolved into thin air, leaving me alone but with newfound clarity. There were no more excuses, no more attempts to salvage something that had long been broken. Nathan was waiting for me in Seattle, offering something I had never truly had, a chance to be genuinely loved, without reservations or hidden agendas. I returned home that night with a heavy heart, but a clear mind. I packed the rest of my things, carefully setting aside every object that once held sentimental value. Letters, small mementos from our trips, even the photo album Ray had made for our second anniversary. All of it went into a box. I sealed it and left it by the apartment door. I wouldn't take anything from that life with me. The past would stay here, buried in that city and in that relationship that had never been real. But what hurt most was realizing how much time I had wasted on someone who had never truly seen me. The next morning, Ray showed up at the apartment early, unannounced, with that familiar expression, one I knew too well, the face of someone about to deliver a half-hearted excuse. He glanced at the box by the door, then looked at me with a smirk that bordered on mocking. Going somewhere? He asked, as if he didn't already know. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my composure. I'm leaving, Ray. I'm going back to Seattle. Is there anything else I can do for you? He looked shocked, but instead of trying to change my mind, his expression shifted to one of annoyance and superiority. "So, that's it? You're giving up on us just like that, Trina? After everything we've been through?" I almost laughed. After everything we'd been through? I was the one who had endured each excuse, each absence, each lie. He, on the other hand, had just moved seamlessly from one lie to another, without ever really living anything with depth. I looked at him, and at that moment, I saw the Ray I had never wanted to see. Selfish, manipulative, someone who liked the idea of having someone on standby, but never truly committed to anyone. "You forgot me a long time ago, Ray." I was just the last to realize it. He opened his mouth to reply but hesitated, probably expecting me to back down, to change my mind, as I had always done. I knew he believed I would never truly leave. But for once, he was wrong. Ray tried one last attempt, appealing to our history together. He started talking about the promises, about how much we had meant to each other. But the words sounded hollow. He was speaking about us as if recounting a fictional story, devoid of any real emotion, without anything that could make me believe it. In the end, he gave up on pretending to be upset. Before leaving, he threw out one last line, something he probably thought would be a final blow. "I hope you know what you're doing, Trina. You're never going to find someone who understands you like I do." That's when I realized he truly understood nothing about me. All these years, he had only seen me as someone convenient, who would always be there whenever he needed. But as I watched him walk out without a trace of remorse, I realized he had been gone for a long time. I had just been slow to notice. A few days later, I returned to Seattle. Nathan met me at the airport, with that warm smile that already gave me a sense of peace I had known. He held my hand firmly, as if he understood everything I had been through without needing an explanation. Nathan was patient, generous, and above all, he made me feel safe. For the first time, I felt truly seen. Weeks passed peacefully, until one afternoon, while I was walking with Nathan through the city, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I answered hesitantly, and, to my surprise, it was Elena on the other end. She started with that soft voice, feigning kindness, but masking her true intentions. She wanted to tell me that Ray was unhappy, that he felt lost without me. According to her, he still thought of me, filled with regret, and that he had only gotten involved with her impulsively, out of compassion. She ended her speech begging, or rather, imploring, for me to go back to him, to reconsider. But each word she spoke only confirmed that I was finally free from that emotional prison. I took a deep breath and told her, as calmly as I could, that there was no turning back, that I had found someone who genuinely respected and valued me. Someone who made me realize how foolish I had been for waiting so long to escape that toxic relationship. She didn't take it well, of course. She made one last, desperate attempt to make me feel guilty, but nothing could shake me anymore. After that conversation, I decided to block any contact from Ray or Elena. They were now a closed chapter in my life, a part of the past I was finally willing to forget. Yet, Ray wasn't ready to let go so easily. One day, I received a letter at home from his mother. Mrs. Hall, who had always been kind to me, was asking me to reconsider, claiming Ray was truly remorseful and that his relationship with Elena had no future. But to me, it was too late for any apologies or pleas. I was determined not to return to that cycle of pain. I started focusing on myself, on my future with Nathan, on building something real, something worth my time. With every step, I felt like I was healing, rediscovering who I truly was. It was a slow process, but each day was a small victory over everything Ray and Elena had tried to take from me. I was at peace, and nothing, not Ray's false remorse, nor Elena's desperate appeals, could make me give up my happiness. After months in Seattle, finally at peace with Nathan by my side, I believed the past was truly behind me. But one day, out of nowhere, I received a message from Ray. He wanted to talk, claiming he needed closure. I hesitated, but after weeks of persistence, I decided to put an end to it once and for all. We met in a discreet cafe, a neutral space with no ties to our shared past. I arrived first, and Ray walked in a few minutes later, looking visibly worn out. He seemed burdened, but to me, it no longer mattered. He sat across from me and, after a long sigh, began with the predictable apologies. Trina, I know I made mistakes. I know I hurt you in ways I may never be able to fix. He hesitated, watching me for a reaction. I kept my expression cold, offering nothing. Desperation edged his voice as he continued. Elena, she was lost. I was lost. She kept telling me she was sick, that she needed me, and now I've realized that maybe it was never true. Those words hung between us, and he waited, searching my face. A part of me had suspected as much, of course. There was always something off about the way Elena's illness seemed to worsen or improve depending on what she needed from Ray. The cancer had been a convenient excuse, a tool she wielded to manipulate him. So, you finally figured it out, Ray. My voice was low but steady. She used the disease as a weapon, and you let her. You chose to believe her without thinking about the consequences, or about what you were giving up. He lowered his head, clearly ashamed. I really thought she needed me. She told me it was life or death. His voice trailed off, sounding as though he was finally seeing things for what they were. And did you ever think of me, Ray? I asked, feeling a simmering anger that, oddly, now felt distant and almost irrelevant. I was just an obstacle to you, something easy to discard. I stood by your side for years, but the moment she came along with her story, you threw everything away. He nodded slowly, taking in every word, each truth he had been avoiding until now. I was a fool. I was naive. She always knew exactly what to say to keep me close. I looked at him with a cool indifference, observing the man I once knew, now lost and broken by his own weaknesses. Once upon a time, seeing him like this might have brought sadness or even pity. Now, it was merely a reminder of how far I had come. You made your choices, Ray, and now you have to live with them. My words were blunt, yet honest. He needed to hear it, to understand that there was no excuse that could erase the past. He reached out as if to take my hand, but I pulled back. There was no place for contact, no attempt at salvaging something that could never be restored. Trina, he whispered, his voice thick. I know I can't change anything, but I don't know how to move on. For the first time, I smiled, a real, untroubled smile. It wasn't one of pity or empathy. It was one of liberation. I moved on, Ray. And as for you, that's no longer my concern. I finally found someone who knows what it means to love without manipulation, someone who truly sees me. And you, well, you'll have to live with the choices you made. I stood up, ready to leave that chapter behind once and for all. He remained there, motionless, with a look of loss and regret, unsure of what to do. In the days that followed, Ray tried reaching out again, sending me messages, calling occasionally, his attempts increasingly desperate. I ignored them all. Eventually, he stopped. Through mutual friends, I later heard that Ray and Elena had ended up together, but their relationship was plagued by jealousy and distrust. He discovered other lies of hers, and little by little, the illusion he had created unraveled. They said he was bitter, trapped in a relationship he'd helped build, a situation that now consumed him. It was ironic how fate sometimes returns exactly what we sow. As for me, I moved forward, my heart at peace, knowing that my real revenge was choosing happiness. I was living something they could never understand, the freedom of being with someone who respected me, who saw the best in me. And knowing that Ray and Elena were ensnared in their own lies was, in a way, the perfect closure.